All right, it's starting to smell a lot like college football season outside, and what makes it feel even more like college football season is when we get the first AP poll. That dropped moments ago. Do we like it? Do we hate it? Are we indifferent on it? I would say this, take the AP poll with a grain of salt, because the preseason AP poll, to me, feels a lot like getting your grade in the class before the first test. Like, it's great. You're cool with it. It's nice to have that first assignment in and kind of have a good gauge as to where you stand going into the season, but also, like, we haven't played any games yet. So if you're furious with your ranking, there's a lot of ball to be played. So make sure you're subscribed right here to the On3 YouTube channel, because we're going to talk a lot about the season. I mean, that's all we do on this channel is talk college football. Want y'all a part of it. Okay, make sure you're subscribed. It's time to lock in. College football season is here. The AP poll is proof of that. All right, appreciate y'all and love y'all for being dialed in. So let's take a look at this, man. 1 through 4, and I've held this stance for a long time. There is a correct grouping of the top 4 as we sit here right now in August. Now, when the games actually get played, we'll rethink that whole thought. But you got Georgia at 1, Ohio State at 2, Oregon at 3, Texas at 4. Now, if you feel strongly in Columbus, Ohio, that your Buckeyes should be number 1, you're going to have a chance to prove it. And if you're standing on the table shouting that, I respect it. I have no issue with that. You could convince me that Ohio State is the number 1 team in America right now. I'm cool with Georgia at 1. Probably personally, I would have Georgia at 1 as we sit here right now. But 1 and 2, I have no issue with however they were to put that together. Oregon and Texas. Heck, maybe we could get Oregon at Texas during the season. Oregon and Texas 3 and 4. Same thought. Like, if you had Texas at 3 and Oregon at 4, big deal. Like, it's all going to be sorted out on the field with all these rankings, but especially that top 4. To me, those are the 4 best rosters. I think the AP poll got that grouping correct. Now, 5 through 10. I have no major issues, honestly. You got Bama at 5, Ole Miss at 6, Notre Dame at 7, Penn State at 8, Michigan at 9, Florida State at 10. If we're going to be nitpicky here, Bama at 5 to me was a little bit of a surprise just based on all they don't bring back defensively, production-wise. They only have 33% production back on that side of the football. And then all that Ole Miss did via the portal and all that Ole Miss has coming back, I could make a case for Ole Miss at 5. I probably would have Ole Miss at 5 and Bama at 6. It is what it is. Now, Penn State at 8 to me is a little bit generous. I get what they did last season was impressive and the way they finished the year making a New Year's Six bowl game, but I'm not so sure that offense is making Penn State a top 10 team preseason. Now, they got a new OC. Drew Aller's a really good quarterback. However, we haven't really seen them put it together. But again, the defense should be great. I have no major issue with Penn State in the top 10. 8 to me, again, just maybe a touch generous, but I don't have a major issue with it. 11 through 15 now, we get a little bit more saucy. This is maybe where the opinions start to become a little bit more strong. Missouri at 11. Utah at 12, LSU at 13, Clemson at 14, Tennessee at 15. Couple of thoughts here that will also bleed into 16 through 20, but I just want to start here, man. I'm cool with where Utah is, I suppose, right now. Like, if you want to make them earn their respect being a top 10 team, I get it. Cam Rising, we'll see where the knee's at. Keithy, he's also coming back this year. But, like, I can't help but have this feeling as we look up and down this list, like, do we not know better about Utah and Kyle Whittingham? Do we not know who they are every single freaking year, it feels like? Cam Rising, more specifically as well. All he does as a starting quarterback when he is healthy is win conference titles. Now, it's a new conference, granted, moving from the Pac-12 to the Big 12, but like, Cam Rising has a very large sample size for us as college football fans to unpack together. We know what he is. Feel pretty confident that he's going to be back on the field in a healthy version of himself. I personally just feel like Utah's a top 10 team. I do. Now, I don't know who you would bump out of the top 10 to put Utah into that top 10, but Utah to me is a top 10 team. They will prove it. They will be a top 10 team at the end of the season. The Utes are a top 10 team. They bring back 70% production from last year's squad. They have, again, Cam Rising back in the lineup, Keithy back in the lineup. Kyle Whittingham football teams, they win ball games. If they can stay healthy, they will be a top 10 team. Feel very strongly about that. Now, my opinion on 11 through 15, again, like I said, bleeds into how I feel about 16 through 20. Put a pin in that. 16 through 20 is Oklahoma at 16, Oklahoma State at 17, Kansas State at 18, Miami at 19, Texas A&M at 20. So my big issue, probably the biggest issue I have with both this poll and the coaches poll, is where they have Miami in relation to Clemson. And I get it. We haven't played any football games just yet, but you look at what they have in-house at Miami, and look at what happened last year in Miami and Clemson when they played. Miami beat Clemson. Miami's roster, I wholeheartedly believe, got a lot better. Miami beat Clemson with a lesser caliber of quarterback. No shade to Emory Williams. Cam Ward, we know what he is. He is an upgrade from in the quarterback position. Miami feels that way. That's why they went out and got him. Okay? So, you're telling me that Miami beats Clemson on the field, and then Miami is ranked behind Clemson when it comes to the poll. JD, it's a new season. I understand that, but look at what they have on the roster. What I just said, Miami got better. Clemson, not to say they got worse, but they stayed, in my opinion, relatively the same. Now we'll see what those young playmakers are on the outside for them. I'm not trying to discount that. And Clemson also wasn't always healthy the majority of last season, as was Miami. But the point I'm trying to make here is I think you should flip-flop Miami and Clemson. That's my opinion. We move on. 21 through 25. Arizona at 21, Kansas at 22, USC at 23, NC State at 24, and Iowa rounding out the top 25. No major issue here, which is kind of the theme, I guess, of this whole preseason AP poll. Again, it's preseason. No games have been played yet. This is not a prediction or projection from the AP. They're just taking an inventory of where things stand right now in the college football world. Check out Kansas, though, man. Remember Kansas and how they used to be viewed? Just in the college football world, they used to be, just call a spade here, before Lance Leipold got there, a laughing stock. People used Kansas as an archetype for underachieving college football teams, or college football teams that didn't achieve anything, period. They were a basketball school. Kansas is now in the top 25 of both the coaches poll and the AP poll to start the year. Hat tip to Lance Leipold. Kansas is a football school. They're a football school. Hear me loud and clear. Do we have some bias with us being a college football show and liking Kansas, to kind of shoot up the ranks here? We love that. I love their story. I love Lance Leipold. But Kansas, based on what they've done to this point and then being a top 25 team in both polls, book it. College football school. And we love everything about that. So who could have been in? Again, I don't have any enormous issues with these top 25 teams being in the group. Our top 25 is going to come out next Tuesday, so stay tuned for that. We're going to get some kickback on this, but that's fine. I think Nebraska has a case to be in this top 25. I really do. And I understand they did not prove that on the field last year. 5 games, 1-score losses. It is what it is. If you don't win, you can't be in the top 25. That's pretty straightforward. But I think if you're looking at what they bring back, which is a whole lot of production, top 5 in the country from last year's squad, and in theory, and that's probably why I leave them out, because you're not doing this AP poll in theory, but in theory, they upgrade at quarterback with Dylan Raiola, who is a true freshman. We'll see what he brings to the table. I think Nebraska has a very strong case to be a top 25 team. We'll see if that ends up being the case. I think Virginia Tech has as strong a case as anybody to be in this top 25 group right now. They are number 1 in America in returning production. They won 5 of their last 7. I think Virginia Tech probably could have been in this top 25. Here's another one for you, SMU. JD, but they're an AAC school and they're jumping to the ACC. Like, maybe cool off on that. I hear you. I'm just saying they won the AAC last year. They bring back a starting quarterback in Preston Stone, who is one of the best quarterbacks in America that nobody is talking about. Also, Rhett Lashley has gone to work in the portal, and as they make this move to the P4, he's gotten a whole lot of players from the P4 to join him in Dallas. All right? Like, when they went out and hit the portal, they got over 20 transfers. All right? And the players they got weren't just guys from the G5 level to come and join them, FCS guys to come and join them. They went to places like Ohio State, Georgia, Oklahoma, Texas, Miami. They went out and got some players now that were from very high caliber rosters. So just because you don't get on the field out of Texas or Miami or an Ohio State or a Georgia, so on and so forth, doesn't mean you can't cut it in major college football. Okay? I'm just saying. So SMU, I see why you leave them out right now, but I would be surprised if we don't see SMU ranked at some point in time during this college football season. And the last team here that I think you could make an argument to be ranked, this is tough because on the field they left a lot to be desired last year. And so, you don't want to project too much when you put together these rankings. At least I have to believe that's the case. And we'll get a lot of kickback on this, if not the most kickback throughout our whole video. I think Florida probably doesn't deserve to be ranked right now, but if you were just doing it off of strictly the roster, like you said, give me the best 25 rosters in college football, which is not what this is. Top 25 rosters, I think Florida's probably in that group. I think Graham Mertz is going to take a massive step forward. I think what he did last year was enough to solidify himself as one of the top quarterbacks in the SEC. I think Trey Wilson's one of the best playmakers in college football. I think that defense got better on the back end. So I get it. You can't put a team that performed the way they did last year in the top 25. And I think a lot of us are probably blinded a little bit opinion-wise because of how difficult their schedule is. But that roster now, I think that roster is a top 25 roster. So all things considered, I think you could make a case, probably a difficult case to make, you could make a case for Florida being a top 25 roster in college football. No big issue with them not being in the top 25 in the AP poll after a 5-7 season, but keep an eye on Florida, man. Keep an eye on Florida. Appreciate y'all, man. This is so fun. College football is back. Make sure you're locked in. Make sure you're following me on the social channels at JD Pickell, Instagram, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Follow me there, and we'll talk some ball and have a good time, man. Live on the air tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern, talking college football. It's a beautiful thing. Love y'all. Appreciate y'all. Gonna keep this party rolling, and we will see y'all next time. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.